Hey, welcome to Full Circle. I'm Anderson Cooper. Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. Got a lot to get to today. We got here in the newsroom in New York. I want you to weigh in with your thoughts in the comment section. If you ever want to quiet those comments, just swipe to the right. On tonight's program, take a look at this. Some amazing pictures we're already getting of the longest blood moon eclipse happening this century. Astronaut Mark Kelly will answer your questions about that, what it's like to travel millions of miles in space. And the 180, your chance to ask me some questions. Tonight I want to talk about reporting on kids. They're often the most challenging stories, but also sometimes the most rewarding subjects. I'll answer some of your questions about that in a few minutes, as well as get you more on tonight's most pressing story about kids, one you voted to know more about. In fact, families separated at the border. Plus, my question for you, do you think President Trump gets enough credit for the good stuff coming out of his administration? I'll explain why I'm asking in a minute. But for now, go ahead and vote. If you're watching live on your phone or tablet, you should see your choices on the bottom half of the screen. Vote away, then swipe down to clear. And while you're at it, tag a friend who you think might have some strong feelings about this one. I want to know what they think as well. We'll get you final results of what everyone thinks before the end of the show. I want to start with the first thing first, the top trending news story on Facebook this second, and that is the blood moon happening now. That was my best Walt Blitzer impression. Not very good. I got to work on that. For those of you in the path of the eclipse, you can look up to the sky to witness a once-in-a-lifetime event. The blood moon is the longest total lunar eclipse of the 21st century. The moon will spend nearly 4 hours crossing the Earth's shadow. Now, this is a time-lapse video we created from two different CNN cameras, one in Lebanon, the other in Kenya. Now, I mentioned at the top, we'll talk to retired astronaut Captain Mark Kelly about that in just a few minutes. Now, for the one thing you need to know, the one thing we don't want you to miss, it's the end of a turbulent week, both for President Trump and his one-time personal attorney, Michael Cohen. The president today denied Cohen's claim that he knew in advance about that meeting at Trump Tower back in 2016. On Twitter, the president posted this: "I did not know of the meeting with my son, Don Jr. Sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories in order to get himself out of an unrelated jam. Taxi cabs, maybe?" That's in direct response to CNN's reporting on sources who have said that Cohen claims then candidate Trump had advance knowledge of the meeting on the expectation of campaign dirt on Hillary Clinton. And as if the week couldn't end on a weirder note, look at this, a photograph of Robert Mueller reading a newspaper and Donald Trump Jr. in a baseball hat, both at the same boarding area today at Washington's Reagan Airport. Very close to each other, not acknowledging each other. This is all happening on a day when the president should be taking a victory lap on the economy. Numbers out this morning show it's growing at the fastest pace in 4 years, which leads me back to my question for you. Does President Trump get the credit he deserves for the good stuff coming out of his administration? Results at the end of Full Circle. Time now for the Full Circle interview on that lunar eclipse. Joining me is a man who's very familiar with the moon and everything around it, retired NASA astronaut Captain Mark Kelly. Captain, so great to have you here. Can you just explain the significance of this lunar eclipse? What makes it unique?
Well, this one's pretty rare because it's a full lunar eclipse, and it just happens to be the situation where the Earth is about as far away as it gets from the sun, and the moon is also relatively far away from the Earth. So the Earth is casting a big shadow, and then the moon is going through the big part of the shadow that was cast. So it transits it a little slower, and it's a bigger shadow. So it's going to be in there for about an hour and a half. The biggest possible lunar eclipse is about an hour and 47 minutes. That happens very rarely. So this is a long one.
What is it that makes it a blood moon, and why is it called that?
Well, so the sun is not shining directly on the moon when you see a lunar eclipse. It's in shadow, but it does get some sunlight that is refracted through the Earth's atmosphere. And as that sunlight passes through the atmosphere, now the Earth is round, right? Let me say that again to those people who might be in doubt. The Earth is round, and the moon is round. And as that sun passes through the atmosphere on the edges of our circular disk, the round Earth, the blue light gets filtered out, and the wavelengths that come through are the red wavelengths, and that is casting a red, basically like a red flashlight on the surface of the moon.
It's amazing. You've seen the moon from space. What does it look like from space compared to how it looks on Earth?
Well, on a clear night on Earth, you can see it really, really well. In space, we have the added advantage of that we're not looking through, 100 miles of atmosphere above us. So it's just through a vacuum, so you see it much more clearly. Clouds are not going to get in the way. Especially if you use a pair of binoculars, I mean, you could see detail on the moon that you can't see from the surface of the Earth. I'm here in Hawaii right now, and it was a clear night last night. And with Mars being really close, we were taking a look at Gabby and I were taking a look at through Mars through binoculars, and then the moon as well. And it's pretty incredible. The detail you can see on the surface of the moon.
That's so cool. We've got some questions from our viewers for you. Evangelist wants to know, is there a danger for the eye to watch the lunar eclipse directly as with the sun eclipse?
Absolutely not. You can stare directly at it. You can look at it through a telescope or with binoculars. The sun is on the other side of you. Now, unfortunately for us here in North America, you're not going to see this lunar eclipse at all. You got to be on the other side of the planet, the night side, while this is happening. But any lunar eclipse, you can stare right at it without a filter.
Rachel wants to know, when do you think man will be able to travel to Mars, or woman will be able to travel to Mars? Will it be a one-way trip?
Well, I am not in favor of the one-way trip. We understand the rocket science pretty well of what it would take to get to Mars. My brother spent a year in space to try to help us understand the physiology of somebody spending a long time in space. And a mission to Mars and back, you're looking at about a 2.5-year mission, so they would be pretty long. But beyond that, the thing that makes this really hard is the political science. I think we all are aware how hard it is to get things done in Washington, D.C. The federal government tends to change its direction on things all the time, so we would have to have a Congress and a president and the American people behind that mission. And if we had those things and we did it over a period of time, we could go to Mars. We could probably do it in 10 to 20 years from now, but we have to want to do it.
Captain Kelly, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's been great. Now on to the 3 things you want to know. You voted for your top stories on this page. We spent the day digging into them for you to tell you more about them. Here are your top 3. At number 3 today, Facebook has suspended the personal profile of InfoWars founder Alex Jones for 30 days. The InfoWars and Alex Jones namesake page remain up, but a Facebook spokesperson said the pages were, quote, close to meeting the unspecified threshold of violations that would result in those pages being unpublished as well. Facebook also removed 4 videos associated with Jones and InfoWars. One of those videos was reported to Facebook a month ago. Spokesperson for the social media site said the company made a mistake when it initially reviewed the video and corrected it when reviewing the content once again. InfoWars, as you know, is notorious for spreading false information, conspiracy theories, including suggesting the Sandy Hook massacre was a hoax and that the September 11 terror attacks were an inside job orchestrated by the U.S. government. As for comment, Jones responded in a statement sent through a representative accusing CNN of publicly calling for the banning of his free speech. He also demanded that CNN, quote, cease and desist. Facebook has suffered a public relations crisis recently over how it handles misinformation and false news on its platform, including questions specifically about InfoWars. Now on to the number 2 thing you voted to know more about today. A fast-moving wildfire in Northern California has killed 2 people, damaged dozens of buildings, and there's concern that thousands could be in its path. That's led to forced evacuations near the city of Redding, California, sometimes with only minutes to spare. Authorities say the fire even jumped the Sacramento River. This fire is out of control, warned the California Highway Patrol on Facebook last night. The blaze has doubled in size in just the past 12 hours and is only 3% contained, only 3% contained. Nearly 2,000 firefighters have been battling the blaze since it started Monday, but hot and windy conditions have been working against them. At number 1 today, an update on the crisis at the border for you. A day after the court-ordered deadline to reunite all eligible families separated at the border, well, the administration insists they have done just that. The Department of Homeland Security released a statement that reads in part, and I quote, "To be clear, the total number of eligible potential class members in ICE custody seeking to be reunited who have not been reunited is 0. But there are more than 700 kids in custody. Some of the children's parents have already been deported, while others have criminal histories or declined to be reunited with their kids. Not entirely clear what's next for those children." A hearing taking place in a federal courthouse in San Diego just ended. We're standing by for any new information on the 711 kids, to be precise, and what will happen to them in the future. Well, that's your top story, the one you wanted to know most about today. It brings me right to tonight's 180, the part of the program where I get to take some of your questions. Tonight, the challenges and rewards of stories involving children. Hunter asks, how do you make a young interview subject feel comfortable during an interview? That's a really good question, and it takes It just takes practice, frankly. But I mean, first of all, you have to make sure you have permission, usually from their parents or guardian, in order to be able to even talk to a child. But you want to just relate to the child, not talk down to them at all. Just ask them honest questions and be straightforward, and listen to what they say, and then try to respond really to what they're saying, and ask them follow-up questions based on what they've said. But as much time you can spend with them beforehand, the better, just to get them comfortable with you. Maybe even show them the camera, show them how it works, show them how the microphone works, all that sort of stuff we maybe take for granted. Lauren wants to know, my kids constantly say embarrassing things in public. What's the most awkward thing a child has said or done to you on camera? Wow, that's a good question. I'd have to really kind of think about that. I do remember, I don't know if you remember there was a family with a kid they were being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer, and I can't remember why what was it? Balloon Boy. Yeah, okay, sorry, the folks in control were reminding me. And one of the kids turned to the dad, I think during the interview, said, I think the words were, who the hell is Blitzer? Who the hell is Wolf? So we always like that line here. Sora asks, when you're interviewing kids on live TV, are you planning for any unexpected behavior? You always have to plan for unexpected behavior. I actually remember interviewing Nancy Grace once, and I think her two kids, I think I was filling in for Larry King or something, and her two kids were on, and they were kind of crawling all over the place. They're adorable, the twins, they're really adorable. But that was one of those things you just kind of got to roll with it. Thanks everyone for your questions. Now let's finish up with the bad and the good. One story that, maybe makes you cringe, and one that leaves you feeling good at the end of the broadcast. First, the bad. Listen to this, talk about earning your stripes. A new zoo in Cairo, Egypt is accused of trying to fool visitors by painting black stripes on a donkey to make it look like a zebra. That's just pathetic. A college student who spotted the strange-looking animal took this photo with it. Then he shared his photos here on Facebook, and as the kids say, the story went viral. The zoo director insists he's not an ass, and neither is this animal. But do you get it? Oh, puns. The zebra is real and not painted, he told a local news channel. Let's compare this questionable creature to the real deal. The one in the zoo, the top photo, is smaller. I gotta put my glasses on just to, yeah, okay, I think that's pretty clear. It's smaller, has suspiciously long pointy ears, and some black smudges on its face. Looks like a donkey to me, but we'll let you be the judge. And that brings us to the goods, because we always want to leave you, our viewers, feeling good at the end of the program. Allow me to introduce you to the world's newest and youngest full circler. This is Jack Holterhouse. Jack's father, Jason, is kind of the techie mastermind around here that gets this program from our newsroom out to you all in Facebook Nation. Jason's wife, Julie, was actually due the day of our very first full circle. Jack was very helpful, waited for Dad to get us on the air before he was born. Jason, Julie, and big sister Charlotte are all thrilled, as are we in the Full Circle family, to welcome Jack into the world. Congratulations. I'd also be remiss if I didn't tell you this little tyke's full name, Jack Anderson Holterhouse. With a handle like that, kid, you are destined for great things. That's just about it for us for this their week, our second week on the air. I want to close it out with some of your thoughts. First, you voted. Does President Trump get enough credit? 57% of you said yes, he does. 43% of you said no. I think I know which of you he'd agree with on that one, certainly. Also want to take a look at how you reacted to the show and today's news. Looks like overall your strongest emotion was, look, love. Yay, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us this Friday night. I hope you have a great weekend. If you like what you saw, let's make this relationship Facebook official. Follow us on our Facebook page, Anderson Cooper Full Circle. Hope you join in again Monday. Our page here with the things you want to know. We'll be back live Monday, 6:25 p.m. Eastern, every weekday night. Till then, I hope you turn into AC 360 at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Tonight, the shifting explanations about the meeting at Trump Tower. We're keeping them honest. I'll see you soon.